Ladies and gentlemen, fellow patriots, it is now 12:14 a.m. on this Friday morning, July the 19th, and the president has just concluded one of, if not the greatest convention acceptance speeches in the history of our country. However you'd like to say it, whatever the particular criteria you'd like to use, style, message, importance, criticality, whatever you would like to call it, whatever the bases you would like to use, whatever the criteria. And as we speak, what makes it even more delicious, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is that by the weekend, if you believe all of the various accounts, this horrible cancer on the presidency by the name of Biden will be gone. Everyone has announced that it will be the weekend. People had worried about him stealing the thunder of the president this evening. So as we speak, as we watch this, it was one event after another. And then concomitantly, simultaneously, this cur, this vile, putrescent boil by the name of Biden. In fact, kudos to the president for not mentioning his name. I think once, perhaps, maybe he did it. We can go through and we can talk about the particular events. You can talk about whether this was good or whether Hulk Hogan was okay. I thought it was wonderful. It didn't matter. We're getting our country back. We're getting our country back. Albania Hernandez says, finally, Melania was there. Yes, I was wondering. And where was Barron? I mean, look, I don't want to be persnickety, but would you not? Everybody was there. Grandchildren, little children were. Where was Barron? I don't understand this. But you know what? It's okay. It's okay. Could she have said something? Could she not have said something? But you know what? Whatever. But I agree with you. We have been waiting so long for this. Did you notice when he spoke about the event? Maybe I'm reading too much into this. Maybe I'm just trying to be too much of the observant psychologist. I'm curious about what you thought. There is something in his eyes changed. Something. Not demonstrably, not colder, not, I don't know what the word is. It seems like with all of the adversity he's had and all of the lawsuits and all of the prosecutions and all of the horrors that he's had to endure, impeachments, the emoluments clause, that's one of my favorites. That was business. He's had lawsuits before. It was the courtroom. And it was rhetoric and BS and nonsense. And it was a lot of things like that. But when he talked about, I almost wasn't here, had I not turned my head, he said, I'm going to talk about this one more time. He has had to relive this and relive this. I'll bet you in his dreams. I'll bet you when he's quiet. I'll bet you there is a sound. I'll bet you, like most people, when you find yourself, have you ever been in a situation where you just missed an accident or you almost hit somebody or something and you just think, oh my God. It doesn't hit you right away, but then later on. Imagine what it is like to say that someone wanted to kill me. And there were always threats, and there were always the threat, but to hear the bullet go by. And if these pictures are accurate, which I have no reason to believe they are not, to see the bullet but miss you. Something I saw it in his eyes. And he's not somebody who's not effusive. He doesn't wear his heart on his sleeve. He doesn't, I don't want to bring it up again, but Alec Baldwin was crying like a baby when he had his criminal charge dismissed. Trump's had slews of them. And I don't know about in his own time of reflection, but he didn't cry. It hit him. I can't imagine what that was like. And then from that, to have this iconic moment and to know that as we speak, the Democratic Party and this man, he's the first person he will have bowed out because of what? What? Not COVID. That's not, come on, it's not COVID. It's not, it's because of the fact that he never should have been allowed to run in the first place. And what's better than that is the individuals, Karine Jean-Pierre and everybody from MSDNC to the rank and file, to the rats, the absolute, these perfidious, horrible people representing the proxies of the shadow government, forcing them to repeat these lies, aiding and abetting, in my humble opinion, aiding and abetting lying and misrepresentation to the American people. They lied openly, notoriously, without batting an eye, repeatedly. They lied. And then when the lies could not anymore, when Biden just fell apart, the wheels completely came off. Then they came up with some nonsense BS story about what? About what? COVID? What are you talking about? Steph Cam. Yes, I noticed his eyes. It was very touching. It was, Steph. Thank you. When you hear people, when you see somebody go through something, the eyes are the most interesting thing in the world. We had a friend of ours in the neighborhood years ago, and she came into our local establishment, and I walked in, I saw her eyes, and I said, she's dying. And they looked at me it was so obvious. The eyes look far away. There's so much that you can convey with your eyes, so much. The way the lids, the way you focus. Sometimes people's eyes are very lyrical. They bounce, or they're impish, or they're funny, or whatever it was. To hear him say that. And by the way, let me tell you something. And I want to say this in a way that is not to be misunderstood. So please listen to me carefully. While that was horrible, it was almost like, and I'm going to use this expression, not in any way to be, please do not think this at all as my being sacrilegious or blasphemous, but I'm going to say this, and I'm going to use this as a message from God. It was almost as though God was saying, now do you understand? Did you really now do you understand what these people are about? Now do you understand this? Linda Hazler says, I think it all touched a part of his soul he may not have known he had. I think you're right about that. I think you're right about that. And thank you, Linda. It's almost as though God, and again, please, I'm so afraid. I don't want people to think I'm not mocking. I don't want to mock your God. I don't want to say it, but for lack of a better word, just by analogy, by metaphor, it's as though God is saying, do you understand now what we're talking about? I don't think, do you understand? Do you understand? Let me ask you something. If I told you that they found 3 overseas accounts, if you believe in this, but let me just give you one scenario they're trying to push. They're trying to say it's Iran trying to get back at him for the Soleimani, hit, and that sort of thing. Do you think you're going to take somebody who's 20 years old? I mean, maybe. I don't know. 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 I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that. I don't believe it. Everything that's ever happened that's horrible happens internally. It happens here. It happens here. Name the disaster, and it happens here. It's domestic. Nobody ever. It's inconceivable. But I'm saying, you never know. But I want him to understand something. Mr. President, do you understand what's happening now? It's almost like, these stories, and I'm sure you've heard of them. It's a classic story. And the story goes something like this. Somebody goes to World War II. Somebody's involved in the war, and they're a conscientious objector, a CO. They don't believe in fighting. They don't believe in war. They don't believe in this. And then they see what happens to their buddy or their friend. And they see what is happening. And you say, oh, I get it. This is going to be, remember, every time, these are the people who wanted you dead. These are the people who hid this. And they were so blatant. They just don't care about you. You just got in their way. They wanted you to know afterwards that they weren't going to do anything. They were very open. They didn't answer your subpoenas. And they even brought the head assassin. The head. Think about this. Not that she was deliberately, not that Cheadle was actively in part of this. But when you run an organization that is designed to protect the president, and you hire somebody who deliberately is told, now, by the way, you have limited resources. We want to put all of the men and women available to the First Lady's account and others. And then if you have anything left over, these people are so sick. Say what you want about Bobby Kennedy. Say what you just it doesn't matter whatever you think about Bobby Kennedy, but this is a guy whose family, I don't have to remind you, was notoriously dispatched. Think about this. And that name Kennedy has a bullseye on it. It's this thing. If ever there was a family or a name, it would be that. And they denied him. This is how these people think. Mr. Patriot says, if you had told me in 1990 that I would still be listening to you by 12:30 a.m. in 2024, I wouldn't have believed it. Much love from Tampa, Lionel. Oh, bless your heart. Isn't that something? Isn't it? It's a small world, is it not? And isn't it the glory of this, the glory of this machinery, the glory of this ability to speak? And I hope the president also knows. I'd love to sit one. I mean, I'm saying theoretically. I love to sit and just say, do you know what they do to children? Do you know what they do to people? Do you know what they do you know when these are the worst people available? And had you turned one way or the other, do you know the number of people who would have celebrated that night? While your family, I have no reason to believe this, so please don't think that I have any inside information. I do not. But I feel, by virtue of just observing Barron, when I say Barron, he seems shy, quiet, awkward, or different in a good way. Every kid is different. Sometimes people grow older. Everybody's. I'm not saying anything beyond that. I have no information whatsoever. How do you know this in particular did not affect him? For somebody, when you say his absence was conspicuous, when you're 6'7", he's huge. In a room, when you see Barron, Eric is the biggest one of them all. Eric is huge. Eric. And Barron makes Eric look like him. So he wasn't there. Do you think that maybe this might have affected Barron more? I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. His absence is conspicuous. You've got little kids there. You've got Eric's kids. They were yawning. They're tired. They're on, Eastern time, Florida. They were there just to see this. I don't know. Remember, these people wanted to kill you. And when you say these people, you can't identify sometimes it, but it is a movement. Now, do you have any doubts do you think Trump derangement syndrome? You think that's just some kind of and listen, I'll bet you every president from the beginning of time, or since this information was recorded, probably had lunatic people try to target them. And I think that's par for the course. This was different. This is different. We live in a different world right now. Juan Naranja, Johnny Orange, says, many are saying Barron was there in the back with the kids. Did you see him? Did anybody? I didn't see him. Did you see him? I didn't see him once. I'm glad he was there. I didn't see him. I saw all those kids. I didn't see him. I watched that thing the whole night. So I'm glad he was there. Sparky has something to say. Sparky says, President Trump should have cut the time of his speech in half, since many of his topics had been covered in earlier speeches, especially since he started so late in the evening. You know what? Indeed. Thank you for that. I think if you want me to go through some of the stuff, if you want to talk about critiques and things like that, but stop right now. Do you remember what happened? Do you remember? Do you remember the event right now? What is the event? What is the event? We seem to have started a bit of a scrum in the group here. Let me say something. Perhaps I am blind. Mrs. L and I kept saying, where's Barron the whole night? So I was spending so much time. How many of you never saw Barron? Just let me know. Because I'm thinking to myself, I'm losing my mind. How can you miss him? I kept looking. I saw Kid Rock. Hulk Hogan, surprisingly better than I thought. When I saw Hulk Hogan, I thought, oh no. Kid Rock, I've got no complaints. How many of you never saw him? I didn't see him. How can you not? He is the most I saw the two little kids. Listen, I don't want to go into the whole side issue. Sometimes it's very interesting. When you do these wonderful live broadcasts, as you will tell, sometimes you'll have something, you'll have a side issue. Somebody will say something like Suzanne Plachette, Bob Newhart, and then off we go. Was it Howard Boardman? And then we'll just be off. And people say, I veer. There's always this, but that's the magic of this. See, that's the magic. If this were a regular radio show, you know what happened? I'd be talking. You'd be listening. Maybe you'd call. Maybe. But here you're in the room and there's these side bets between. It's fantastic. Now, let me explain something to you. Right now, it's over. His speech was wonderful. That's it. It's it. It's history. It's in the history. It's in the past. Doesn't matter. I would have tweaked a lot of things. A lot of things. You know what I thought was the most impressive? The video montage. The video montage. That whoever did that he did the pictures of Biden. It's just incredible. How I despise that man. How I despise that man. You have no idea. That was wonderful. Hulk Hogan, Terry Bollea from Tampa, Florida, Robertson High School. I thought that was good. I like that. Dana White, very good. Dana White, by the way, ultimate fighting. I want a lot of how do we say this? I want some of the maybe folks from my generation who might be listening or older to understand this is the way things are. Dana White knows, is friends with Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan probably told him, don't do this. And he probably said, I don't want to. Joe Rogan, speaking of dodging a bullet, he learned a lesson during that Spotify COVID thing. Remember that when he had to apologize? When Neil Young threatened to pull his catalog. Oh, God, no. Cowgirl in the Sand. Now you've gone too far. Joe Rogan is very smart. He said, screw that. I'm not going to get involved in this politically. Not interested. Not interested. Within the Republican Party, ladies and gentlemen, everybody loves Tucker Carlson. To the rest of the world, doesn't matter. But to Republicans today, this is the new part. Did Marjorie Taylor Greene speak? Sterling Golden. Wasn't he Sterling Golden? I think it was his first name at the Armory when he played in Tampa, or he wrestled in Tampa. And he was also a bass player in a group called Fate. It was not Faces or Patches or something. It was a one named. I remember I talked to him one time with Jimmy Hart. Anyway, don't get me started with that. Don't get me started with that. I don't care what I think about. Doesn't matter. Tucker Carlson is the fire of a new breed of this. I wanted to see Marjorie Taylor Greene. I wanted to see others. There's not a bench. There's not a bench. Who are being drafted? With all due respect, and I mean this with all the respect and love possible. J.D. Vance, to me, is boring, but his story is important. He's nothing much. I mean, he's good. But I don't even know what that even means when I say, well, he's, Whatever. There are some people who are just Vivek Ramaswamy is too much on that I don't want to say spectrum. I got the wrong word there. He's too much. But I, who's the next leader? You know who thinks he's going to be? Who do you think thinks he's going to be the future? Who do you think thinks he's going to be the Republican in 2028? Who? Give you a hint. Who? Who? Tim Scott. I don't want to be rude. I don't want to say something nice. Okay? I don't want to say something that's not nice. Okay? Don Jr. Thank you, Calypso. Don Jr. Don Jr. sees it as clear as day. And Kimberly behind him, oh, she's just hanging in there. She maybe by that time they'll be married. I don't know. Be careful, Don. You want to talk? You want to talk? Okay, let's talk. If you want to talk about now, first of all, if JD Vance wins it, he's going to go in 2028. Now, remember, people historically we don't like vice presidents, but they come along and that's it. If there is an election between Don Jr. and Kimberly, who was married to Newsom, Newsom's going to be the candidate in 2028. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? And there's going to be a meeting of them. There has to be a meeting. Both can bury the other one. Right? Because nobody can understand. This is, let me tell you something. The Kimberly thing is the most interesting. The most interesting to me. First, what is her name? Vanessa? I don't know. How many people who saw Kai? By the way, Kai is like the star. Have you noticed this? Kai is the star. She has a cool about her. She has this, she doesn't seem like this not gangly, it's the wrong word. Kind of like, she's young, she's 17, but she's got a cool about her. Like, I don't need this. I don't need Kai. Kai says, I don't need it. Yeah, he calls me on the phone. He's my granddad. That's my granddad. Well, what did you think when you found out your granddad was involved? Very upset. She was just very cool. And there was Don Jr., and he's thinking like this. And you can see his head's moving because they thought, I don't know where she's been, but they really made her up. So she's sitting there with Lara, I think Lara or Laura. Don't ask me why. Lara or Laura. If you ever watch old episodes of Dick Van Dyke, they call Laura Petrie Laurie. I don't know why, but they go back and forth sometimes. So how many people say, hey, I like this Kai? That's Don Jr.'s. Oh, is that Kimberly's? Oh, they're not married. How many people don't know that? A lot of people don't know that. Oh, well, who's the mother? I think it's Vanessa with her 5 kids. I mean, he's those are what? Now, they're kind of friends and that sort of thing, and and they're gonna as Kai raises believe me, they're already talking. Listen, bruh, literally, they're on the phone. They're already whatever agencies are. They want her. Now she also needs double, triple Secret Service protection at some particular point because her life's gonna change. They're gonna want to know what they did. And they're going to go after her. They're going to do deep fakes. And so I hope she's ready to go for this. But the point I'm saying is they're going to say, so you're not, who's the mother? I keep saying Vanessa. I don't know. Whatever the mother's name is. I don't want to spend too much time in it. That's later on. We'll watch Kai. But Don Jr., he wants to do this. And Don Jr., they're going to get ready. Have your stories. They're going to tear your path. I mean, it's been very, very good. All of his kids, very frankly, all of the kids, every single one of them is an upstanding. The person who is the most, who is the smartest, is Eric, but he's kind of awkward, but he's the smartest. Our good friend Ms. Lauren one says President Trump can speak as long as he wants. Great stamina, and was important to show it, especially after being injured. The tired people can't even keep up. Absolutely. I think what we're talking in terms of kind of ending something sooner, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. You know when the crowd goes like this, yeah, okay, that sort of doesn't matter. It's over now. He could do no wrong. This was a coronation. This was different than anything we've seen before. But let me also ask you to go back and think about this, dear friends, and listen to me carefully. Jojo is nowhere to be found. Biden is they're going to get rid of him Sunday. I mean, in terms of, on the ticket. He's done. He's going to be the first person to be asked to leave before. Do you understand what this is? Do you see this? Do you get this? He's going to be asked to leave. I mean, this is and what's even more funny about this whole thing is this is the most important part. I was watching today all of these Parkinson's tests, and you can see it's fascinating. YouTube is just filled with these things. And they had this neurologist doing these tests for Parkinson's. This is a big one, big and fast and things like that, and whatever it was, different thing. There was depending upon this, those one neurologist from Stanford. It was fascinating, and he could always tell. He could look at somebody and say, "Oh, that's such and such," and he was imitating. The particular types. Thank you, Xander. Appreciate it. He was imitating them to the point where if you didn't know better, it looked like he was mocking him, but he wasn't. So anyway, Biden had every symptom of everything there was. And listen to me. And I know you've heard this before. And I know this seems repetitive to you. But they knew this the whole time. They lied to us about something we already knew, but it's still a lie. If you suspect your spouse is fooling around on you and your spouse lies and says, no, everything's fine, and it's not true, it's still a lie. And that's what we're talking about here. It's the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life. It's absolutely incredible. They lied repeatedly. And people like Geffen and all these people, they want their money back. Xander says, love you, Mr. and Mrs. L. Bless your heart. Thank you so much. We love you as well. And all of you, dear friends, by the way. This is incredible. Now, all that money, what happens? Well, if they get rid of Joe, I don't know how exactly the particular funding agreement is, but one way of looking at it is that they have to give the money back. And then you contribute it. And many people are thinking, no, they're not going to recontribute it. They're so, why? Now, to an extent, big money folks realize that sometimes you're asked to give money and you're going to give money no matter what. It's part of the gig. But there's no message here. There's no nothing here. There's no direction. Queen Okira C says, my goodness, the post-speech commentary from MSNBC and CNN is a joke. Okira, I can't even watch it. I can't even watch it. I can't. And thank you, sir. I can't. You know why? I'll tell you why. I don't care. What are they supposed to say? What are they supposed to say? Seriously. Oh, Kira, what would you say? What would you say? Things are looking great. Um, uh, Biden is he's in the faint. He's he's holding back. He's going to fight back. He's sandbagging him. People were wondering whether he would announce right during, that would have been so obvious, but they don't care about that. Right during the event. But what are they going to say? As Biden would say, anyway, or whatever. Whatever. It doesn't matter. It's done. Jill Biden is furious now. Jill Biden only wants the trappings of First Lady. Jill Biden is nothing. Jill Biden was a babysitter who just kind of finagled her way in, home wrecker as she was. And her whole thing has been status to get that doctor, the EDD doctor, because she didn't like the fact that it was Senator and Mrs. She wanted Dr. Jill Biden. Doctor. And she wanted these stupid clothes and the Vogue cover. Did you see Melania? Let me also say something which is very interesting. Not only, it was very good to see, I saw this with Alina Habba and others. I know this is going to sound trite, but ladies, you'll understand this. You always have to think about image. And the last couple of times I've seen Fox News, which I'm not going to watch now anymore. I had to watch it because of this convention. A lot of the women, the folks looking like they were like cocktail dresses, like they're at a party, sleeveless this, and they look kind of like, are you coming from some event? I like when women look classy. I thought Melania looked great. Whatever the style is, jackets or suits or whatever it is. I don't like, this isn't a party. Elegance to me is sophisticated. To dress like an adult. This is something you're going to be the first or whatever. And you have Alina Habba, who I thought dressed for the first time, because normally her whole thing is, you've got her and this Margot Martin and this other one. Remember the one who, what was her name? She was, oh gosh, she was the one who left in tears because, I don't know, I forgot her name. She was part of this thing. You've got these satellite women. The poor Dan Scavinos, because he was always the photographer. He kind of pushed out. So I like that look. Every day, I would start off with the president. I would have in his suits everywhere, just like when you have with Bespoke, you have your name. I would have, remember, they tried to kill you. Remember, they tried to kill Barron's father. They tried to kill you. They didn't just want to put you in jail. Remember this. The next time somebody comes to you, the next time you got to deal with AOC or whatever, remember, not that AOC did it, but these people wanted to kill you. They wanted to kill you. This is the thing which is the most important. And also, let me go back to Melania. Do you know what Melania must? If you're Joy Reid, if you're Whoopi Goldberg, if you're even Joy Behar, and you know, and I'm going to say something. Please don't take this the wrong way. Please, dear friends. Women are vicious. Does this surprise you in the least? Ms. Lauren says, Lionel, think of this. In 8 or 12 years, Don Jr. runs for president, now with wife Kimberly Guilfoyle, his opponent being Governor Newsom. Haha, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. And if you really want to go in for it, what everybody's always said is that when Kimberly was married to when Kimberly was married to Newsom, there were always talks about movies and this and threesomes and chandeliers and all this stuff. This talk. And with that, most of the time, remember, these were young people. He's the mayor of San Francisco. And they're kind of wild. And if anybody took, I don't know, recordings, who has them? Who owns them? Where are they? Always think that. There's been talk about this. When Kimberly first was announced, when she kind of came on the scene, she was a real klutz. She was saying things like about Gavin Newsom, he's not gay. He's not gay. And they said, what are you talking about? And she also she referred to him as being, it rhymes with rung, and being menschulate. And the Gettys were incandescent. They were saying, who is this? No class whatsoever. Remember that story I told you about the families and how this works, about the Newsoms, the D'Alessandros, the Pelosi's, the Browns, and the Gettys. And one of the biggest guys to pay attention to now is Balthazar Getty. Remember, he's still running around. Mickey Bitsko says, Lionel, the Melania classical music break was beautiful. It was a nod to classical Western culture. This was a nod to Europe. I hope so. But Mickey, a nod to Europe with people wearing cheese, styrofoam, foam cheese heads, I thought was kind of interesting, which is good. I'll take it. No. Listen, believe me, I'll go. I'll take this as far as we go. It's very, very nice. Compare that to Kid Rock. If it helps, it helps. You know. I mean, that doesn't even matter. That's okay. It's got to be a little kitsch. You know, these people are there all day. These things last a long time. They really do. Mrs. L and I went to and it's the last one we'll ever go to. It was a Republic. It was the RNC in Minneapolis, St. Paul. I don't know if it was St. Paul or Minneapolis, but it was for McCain and Palin. Oh, just horrible. And they were the strangest people I've ever seen walking around. Strangest people. Strange. It was like almost like a MUFON, the UFO convention. I will tell you this much, which is also something which I have a hard time dealing with, and maybe you do as well. Soul says Kimberly G dancing to Gloria cannot be unseen. Oh yes. And what was also funny was when she came right out. Remember when she came out to speak at the night of or during this convention, when she walked out, they immediately cut. You just saw her. Boop, she was there for a second. But when Tucker came out, they had to keep him on. Tucker, who was ignominiously dispatched from Fox. Did you also hear when Trump mentioned the fact of the elections being stolen? That was also a classic. The elections being stolen. I had such an incredibly wonderful point to make, and you threw me off in a good way, though. Anyway, going back to what we're saying, I'm not a groupie, and when you're there and you're walking through, and they say, oh, "There's Marjorie Taylor Greene." That's a congressperson. Oh no. Is that Sean Hannity? I saw him. I saw Sean Hannity. Can I get a selfie? I can't take that. I do not do well with that. This is for anyone. Anybody. Movie star, sports. There's something that robs my soul. The only time I ever did this, or I came close to acting like a fool and took a selfie, was E.O. Wilson, the great entomologist, ant expert. You've seen him, Harvard biologist. He was trying to map. Anyway, I've seen him, and I love Consilience. I love all his books. I love all his stuff. And I saw him at the LaGuardia Airport. That one I saw. I got a picture of him. And George Jones, I've got there. That's it. Where I'm thinking, ooh, I can't do that. I can't do that. There were some events one time where there were some Republican events. I couldn't do this anymore. I told Mrs. Dawes, I can't do this. I thought maybe we really hear somebody talk about events, and somebody said, "There's Carrie Lake." Okay, what's she? Oh, she's gorgeous. And again, the looks or whatever it is. I'm sorry, that's not it. Let me tell you something. They need to have boot camps. They need to be able to have an actual recruiting system where they go around the country and they look not just Congress people, but people to run maybe for. Each area has to look to nominate people to go and appear at these various, like spring training and the like. Lionel, STFU, both sides have their rabid base. Okay, thank you for that. I don't like rabid bases. Not interested in that. Not interested. This isn't, to me, Hollywood. This is about governance. This is about politics. It's not about, oh, she's a star. You know, yeah, you can have. I mean, there are people who are. I'm sure Churchill was a star, but we don't have people who are brought up to say, what is your basis? What are you all about? What do you know differences between this? I'm dead serious. Paleo-conservative. Are you a conservative? Are you more libertarian? Are you paleo-conservative, neoconservative, neoliberal? How did these things start? What was the origin and the derivation of the Republican Party after the Whigs, ever since Philadelphia? Where did this come from? What about the Southern solution? How does this thing work? How do people really grasp how this thing is? Because if you don't understand the concept of what you're talking about, it means nothing. And there are people, I hate to say it, some of the people you would have rabid base folks who are basically who think the world is Ronald Reagan. And they came about, and you can always tell, people who came about at the time of Rush Limbaugh, and they were frozen. They're frozen in time. They're frozen in time during a period, but it's changed drastically. And one of the things which is the most important, I guarantee you, and with all due respect, and I appreciate the president talking about what he's doing, but did he mention AI? No. Did he mention about security and surveillance? No. He talked about, he kind of glossed over Israel, but everyone said, well, what are we going to do with that? October the 7th, bad, terrible event. What are you suggesting? What do you want done? Like Jared suggested to make what? Gaza oceanfront property? I don't know. He kind of glossed over that. And then he said, for example, the Middle East, and Iran. Do you think Iran, let me ask you a question. Does anybody here believe that Iran is targeting us? And why would they want to target us? Well, maybe the fact that we've targeted them, and we've been doing this ever since Mossadegh. But does anybody here think Iran poses an existential threat to this country? Does anybody do that? Do you think it's important, if you're going to be in office, to understand a little bit about what Iran represents? Do you think that Putin actually wants to reconstitute the Soviet Union? Does anybody honestly believe that? Do you know why there was the invasion? What Crimea was? Does anybody have any clue? Do you remember when Putin was going to meet with Zelensky, and they were going to work out not only a ceasefire but a resolution of the issue? And who came in? Boris Johnson, and told Zelensky, no, you don't. Because NATO came along and said to Zelensky, we will make you a billionaire if you play along with us. And they were going to work this thing out. Now, if Putin wanted to basically reconstruct the Soviet Union, why would he negotiate with Zelensky where it was stopped by Boris Johnson? No. Do you know what happens if a country were to come to our southern border, let's say China, open up an outpost, some Mexican version of what NATO is? Do you know what we would do with our Monroe Doctrine? We go to war. That's exactly what happened with Putin. Is anybody going to explain that? No, because most people don't know that story, and they just hear this idea that Putin somehow is trying to establish or promote some extravagant, some reformation, if you will, some reconstitution of the. It's ridiculous. Our foreign policy is moronic. Who controls artificial intelligence? Who controls anything? Who controls China basically owning all of this land? Who? Did he mention anything about puberty blockers? No, he couldn't mention everything. What I'm posing to you is, do conservatives want to do this? Ronald Reagan was a paleoconservative. Pat Buchanan was as well. William F. Buckley. They didn't want to go to war. They didn't see any need for this. Maybe William F. Buckley at first, but when he was lied to about Vietnam. Look, we can talk about this all day long, and that's fantastic. All I'm saying was it was great. It was great because he's going to win. I don't care how it is. I hope he wins. Now, I hope somehow enough people saw this who are not thinking about voting for him. Because remember, my dear friends, unless this gets out, unless this somehow gets out of the arena, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, it's good, it's great, but we know it was terrific. Conservative people do as well. CNN doesn't care. They're not going to care. MSDNC is not going to care one way or the other. They're going to say, it's the same old lies. And if you were going to do all this, why didn't you do it before? And I can hear the rhetoric right now. So how does he get out? Here's what he needs to do. Unlike most cases, you have an opponent who is collapsing before your very eyes. And that is the most wonderful thing I could possibly think of. Well, dear friends, what a night it has been. Let me tell you something. What a night it has been. Mickey Bitsko, Soul 76 Can. Thank you. Ms. Lauren Okira C. Thank you immensely for your time and your generosity. Ms. Lauren, thank you. Sparky, there he is. Juan Naranjo, the orange man. Mr. Patriot. Linda Hazlitt, or Hazlitt, depending on what. Steph Ham and Albania Hernandez. Muchísimas gracias, as we say in West Tampa. An incredible night. An absolutely incredible night of immense proportion. That's all I'm saying. This man is going to win re-election. And remember one thing. As we speak, be on the lookout. Over the weekend, maybe Sunday even before that, Biden is gone. He might claim COVID. I always thought COVID, aneurysm, or some kind of a fall. But we knew he wasn't going to last. So that means what happens to the money? What happens to the donations? What happens to all of it? We'll see. That's their problem. In any event, my friends, here it is. Here's my Trump hat. I hold my flag and I say to you, it was magical tonight. It was magnificent. It was wonderful. It was everything and more. It was perfect. The president stood there, steely-eyed, determined. Remember, they wanted to kill you. Just remember, just keep saying that. Remember, the next time any kind of deal, anytime you look at a Republican and think, Democrat and think, maybe we should be nice and cordial. They wanted to kill you. And if you say, well, maybe they themselves didn't do this, they would have laughed and howled in delight had that bullet hit. Remember this. Remember who the enemy is. Don't be bashful. Understand who they are. Be vicious. Be ruthless. It's that simple. All right, dear friends, what a glorious night. I've enjoyed it immensely. Thank you for hanging around. I love being here with you. I love this. There would have been no other way prior to the internet's, the system of tubes for us to be able to do this. It's such an incredible system, and it can never be in any way affected. It can never be held hostage, and it can never be subject to draconian censorship, which is another thing that we need to talk about. But we'll get to that. All right, dear friends, we'll see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. Have a great and a glorious night. Thank you so much for watching. And don't forget to follow Mrs. L at Lynn's Warriors. Good night, dear friends. Have a safe night. Sleep tight. See you in the morning. God bless America. And don't forget, the monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue ya.